Alright, so I am taking a look at some very famous ghost photos and telling you what I think. And what I mean by what I think is not how cool or spooky they look, but rather if I think they're real or not. Although some of these are pretty cool, so I probably will comment on it. And although some of these I have seen in like countdown videos and stuff on YouTube, so some of them I know the backstory, I did not look up the backstories as I was collecting these because I felt like that might make me biased in some way, so I'm just going to give my thoughts on them with the limited, if any, information that I have. So this initially, I don't know if I would say double exposure because it is so misty that if it's double exposure, the very first photo that this figure is from must have been a very shaky photo because that is very not defined. It almost looks like the classic someone wearing a sheet over them type ghost. So, you know, I would say I think that it might be a camera malfunction that is not double exposure. I think it might be something else going on here. But if not something else, like let's say this was examined and whatever this is in the photos negative. I don't even know if I'm using that terminology correctly, but let's say that that happened and this is not anything added and it's not like a glitch or anything. In that case, real. That's what I would say. Also, the wood paneling is off-center here. That's kind of weird, but also maybe it's like there's a much longer step, like there's a break in the stairs, and maybe that's, I don't know. I noticed that and that was weird, but anyway. So this one. This is in a cemetery, although that does not look like a headstone. Or it may just be a bench, because people visit cemeteries and you probably want somewhere to sit. If you're someone much older and you're visiting your spouse, then yeah, maybe you want to sit down. So probably just a bench, and I looked into that too much. The actual figure, honestly, I think that's just a person sitting there. Given that the photo is like very grainy as it is, like you can't really, like all of the foliage here looks like a bunch of dots, you know? Like you can't really see specific leaves. It's a lot of dots. So the fact that the figure is like you can't really see a lot of their face and like features and all of that, that's neither here nor there. Because like look at this. I can tell that there's like a belt or something like that in the middle of their dress. And where they're sitting, you can tell they're casting a shadow. And a spirit wouldn't cast a shadow, so I think that's just a person. I think that's just a person sitting down at the cemetery. Ah, yes. I've seen this picture many times and I forget what the supposed story is. It is interesting, though, how the face is completely blank and the like motion blur that you can see, like you can't even really see the hand properly because of the motion blur. I don't know, but it's also like they're looking right at the camera, and you would think that the photo would be them noticing a body falling. Right? Because it looks like it's falling. It doesn't look like an apparition showing up that they can't see, because why would you have the motion blur as if it's falling down? So, I don't know. I think it might be a prank, but also, how could you do a creepy prank like that and have two really little kids agree to it? That's the part that stumps me, is that if this is not real and a prank, I wonder how the hell they were able to set that up. That's what I would like to know. Okay, so this one, if I remember correctly, this was taken at the Amityville house. Either that or another famous house where some not very nice things happened. And this is supposedly the spirit of one of the kids who lost their lives in the ordeal that happened. I personally think that this is not a ghost kid. I think this is a living kid who stepped in to the frame when the photo was being taken when they weren't supposed to. Like, maybe the person was taking the picture with the camera and were maybe not paying the most attention, didn't see the boy, and then afterwards was like, hold on, who is that? But then again, if you're taking a picture inside a house where there is a kid in the house, how would you not know? But then again, the people that said this photo was of a ghost could have just been straight up lying. But yeah, that looks like it's just a little boy to me, because it's not just his head. You can also see the rest of him here wearing what looks like flannel. So, like flannel pajamas or a shirt or something. So it just looks like a little boy. So I don't think that's a ghost. Okay, this one is interesting, I will say. However, I mean, this looks like an antique photo, very old. So if it is a hoax, it would have been brilliantly done, because the long black cloak that it's wearing, you can see the way that it drapes over the step, which is very interesting. And you can see it almost looks like the Scream mask, but not really, because it almost looks like little tendrils, like it's wearing a fabric mask that is like broken and ripped up towards the bottom. It's very eerie, and it's either something very strange caught on camera and totally real, or it is a very elaborately done hoax. Like, double exposure you can probably easily learn how to do on purpose, but this person looks very tall in relation to, like, the background environment. They look like they're maybe, like, 6-7 feet tall. So that's a little bit, like, I don't know, I guess I consider that out of the ordinary. I don't know. And also, that looks like a cross. This looks like it's in a church. If you're part of a church, I imagine you wouldn't want to create that kind of hoax, especially for something that does not look angelic. So, I don't know, like, it looks a little bit too, you know, like, spirits don't usually show up looking like something out of a Halloween movie. But maybe it's a spirit that really wants to get a reaction out of people? I'm not sure. Okay, this one, I think that it's so cool, but I also have to tell you, I think it's not real. Because this is the left arm, and this is the right arm, and for a right arm, the thumb would be on this side of the hand, but look at the way the hand is positioned, and it looks like the thumb is here. on the side of the hand that it shouldn't be. So I don't think this is real. I think it's really cool, but unfortunately not real. I don't buy it, but whoever made this photo, good job. It is creepy and spooky and fun. And we move on. Okay. I remember the story vaguely that this photo was taken like very shortly after one of the soldiers died, and so they were like, oh yeah, he must have wanted to show up for one more photo. The face looks clear enough that I honestly think it might just be a guy, like, standing behind, like maybe someone who was reluctant to be in the photo, and he was like, I'll stand here, but kind of obscured. But at the same time, almost all of them are standing so that you can see their faces completely. Like, I think if this was like an official photo, like being sent to families and stuff, that you would want your face to be more visible than this. That's the only excuse I can come up with for, like, why. But also, if you're a spirit and you want them to know that you're here, that also begs the question, why would your face be partially obscured? I don't know. Maybe the spirit of the guy did that on purpose to be a little bit more spooky, because he was like, let me mess with my buddies. Let me pull one last gotcha moment. I don't know. I give this 50-50 chance on whether it's genuine or not. Oh, this one. So, I don't know how many of you are in my age range. I'm 25. And in the 2000s, there was this, like, magazine that I remember I used to buy that was, like, about a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it was about, like, pre-teen, teen, you know, like, I don't know, like, about Disney Channel stars and stuff like that, but then there were sections towards the back of it that was, like, weird stuff and spooky stuff, and there were sections about ghost photos, and that was, like, about 15 years ago now that I remember seeing this picture for the first time. And I was fascinated by it. I remember the other person that was looking through the magazine with me got really, really freaked out. And I got in trouble for showing them. I honestly don't know. So the story that I vaguely remember is that this spirit is supposedly the mother of this guy. And this photo was taken after she passed. And some of you might be like, what's going on with the eyes here? From what I remember of the story, I think that she was said to always wear glasses, and so even in spirit she was wearing her glasses, and there's a reflection off her glasses, but, like, I don't know, if you're a spirit and you're manifesting still wearing glasses, those aren't your physical glasses. You're just appearing as though you're wearing them. So your non-existent glasses would not cast a reflection, I don't think, if I'm to put logic to this. So I think it might have just been, like, the wife that took the photo forgot when the photo was taken and maybe freaked out and thought, wait, did I take this picture after she died? How is that possible? I don't necessarily think that it was a lie. I think it might have just been a mix-up. So, because I don't think a ghost is going to be sitting there with glasses that have a reflection. And I think she just looks really dark because the light source is hitting him and she's in the back seat. That's what I think. Okay, this one is super cool. First of all, much older photo than some of the others, I think. And if this is double exposure, that begs the question, why is only some of him visible? And also, if it's double exposure, how is he sitting so snugly that his arm is fitting perfectly in the armrest like that? You know? And if it's double exposure, why can you not see his face through whatever this thing is? This kind of looks like a coat rack or something. His face is clearly behind this, but in front of this, and yet his body is only partially visible. I deem this one real. I think this one is genuine. Unless you're someone who deals in photography and you're like, actually, I have an explanation, tell me in the comments, but based off my limited knowledge, I'm gonna say it's real. This one is interesting because this guy he looks like he's standing up straight and yet he's at ground level, because look at this tombstone near him. And I've seen a lot of discourse about spirits, that when spirits are attached to the grounds that they died, as ground level rises over many centuries, that spirit will be attached to the ground level that they knew. So ancient Roman soldiers have been spotted, allegedly spotted, with looking like their feet are in the ground, like their knees are at ground level and the rest of their legs appear to be below ground because ground level has risen. So this photo makes me think of that, except for the fact that the supposed spirit is wearing the same attire as the guy in front of the photo. So when it comes to the time period clothing, that's what makes that theory fall apart for me. However, I know very little about this, so this guy might just be wearing that attire to be on theme with the history of the area, but also if it is the Wild West era that this spirit is from, I don't think the ground level could have risen that much in that time, so that also pokes a hole in the theory. But I just thought that I would share that because I think that's interesting. This one is very freaky, and that's number one because it's more modern. This is a more modern photo than the others. But also, the hand is incredibly clear and she's not reacting to being grabbed. And there's a lot of motion blur, as well as you can clearly see their clothes. You cannot clearly see clothes here. The specter is all the same color. And she doesn't seem freaked out at all about, like, even if it's just a random person grabbing her, with that amount of motion blur, it looks like they're grabbing her all of a sudden, and yet in the photo, it doesn't seem like there's an active reaction, even though her arm's already been grabbed. So that's what makes me very curious about this photo, and for that reason, because I have no other theory on what this could be, I'm gonna say it's genuine. Okay, this one. So, that looks like someone sitting next to her with a white shirt on. I'm going to say I think that is just someone sitting there, and the windshield might be dirty enough that they don't look very well defined. But also, even her, like, she looks a little bit grainy, as does everything else in the photo. So I'm gonna say this is just a guy. I don't know. I don't think, especially because look at the light source hitting everything and how much it's hitting the shirt, which suggests that he is physically there and not some type of specter. This one's interesting. It could be an insect with a light source hitting it, but flying fast enough that it's not defined at all. But also, the scenery in which it's being depicted, this very well may be someone who just passed, or maybe like a guardian spirit or something, but I don't know. It's not well defined enough, so I'm not gonna say that it's authentic. However, if this collision did result in someone passing, that is very sad. This one. Okay, so I did see the story attached to this, which is that this grave is for a little boy and this is a little girl. And there is a tombstone behind this one for twin girls. And the mother of the boy took a look at this photo and said, "That's not my kid." So that leads to the theory that this girl is one of those two who are buried there. If I were to entertain that this is real and not double exposure, because you can see a little bit of transparency there, I guess you could argue that kids may not understand death very well, and so for a very small child they might not understand their own death, and that may be the reason why they linger. That's the only explanation I can come up with for this being a real ghost photo, but otherwise I think it may be double exposure. I'm honestly really not sure, and I don't know enough about cameras and the fact that it is that well defined except for towards the bottom of the specter. I don't really know. I think this is just a picture of a child, but I can't be sure. So this one is taken inside a church, and this lady in the back is supposedly the spirit. However, the light source is hitting her, and she also, as she's sitting down, appears to be casting a shadow, and I don't think that spirits can cast shadows. So I think this is just a person in church sitting down. But I've seen a lot of discourse around this particular photo, so I thought that I would go over it quickly. This photo is interesting because she's out in the woods and not paying attention to the camera, and her hands are up like she's eating or praying or something like that. She appears to have a bag or something with her. But I think it's double exposure. I don't know. I forget. I know that there was a very specific story attached to this, but I don't remember it. Okay, so this one, she is only partially transparent. Towards the top, her face is a lot more defined. She's looking... It looks like she's looking at the camera, and it's also in a decrepit, abandoned building. So what would she be doing there? I don't know. I am going to say I think this one is real. So this one was examined, and the face is there in the negative, and the face is even more defined than it is in the negative of the photo than the photo as it is, and it looks even more skeletal. So I'm gonna say this one is real, because I don't have an explanation for it at all. It looks very eerie. Okay, and this is the last one we're looking at. This is a very tall lady. You can see this lady here is probably about average height. And look at how tall. It looks like she has a bun, and then the rest of her hair is free flowing. It looks like she's wearing a bustle dress. Maybe she's got a bow on her dress. It's an all black dress. And her face is obscured. But, like, look at how ridiculously tall. And it's weird because it kind of looks like she's looking at whatever this lady is looking at, so it's almost like she's observing along with this tourist lady. Because look at this here. See how this is blocked off? This is clearly a place that's available to the public, which, given the historic look of it, I think it's a place that is more likely to be haunted if it's a historic building, but even if this is just someone in historical attire, why is she that tall? How is she that, like, I don't know. I'm gonna say this is a weird photo, because I don't have an explanation at all. It's a weird photo. She's very tall, but also she's kind of really cool looking. Like, being that tall in a Victorian dress, walking through a historic building, like, hell yeah. Okay, anyway. Yeah, that was the last photo out of the group that I decided to look at, and let me know whether you agree with my assessments or not in the comments, and I'll see you next time.